It is high time to move past the traditional neurological examination to monitor patients. In this video, I'm going to challenge traditional neurological dogma and in the process probably piss off a bunch of neurologists, but I'm going to share with you why we need to move past the neuro exam and testing that is quite literally better. If you want to hear about that, don't turn away, because it starts right now. Howdy! Thanks for learning about MS with me, Boster. I started this YouTube channel to help my own MS clinic patients learn between visits, and it's my hope that through these videos, I can help you learn too. Today's topic is a contentious one. I'm challenging hundreds of years of neurological dogma in telling you that I think it's high time that we move past the neuro exam. Don't hate. I am proud of my ability to do a traditional neurological examination. Quite literally, it's something that I've been improving upon for 2 decades. And it's not that I think that it doesn't teach us anything, I think it does. My point is that there is testing that is more accurate, more reliable, more easily collected, and better at prognosing long-term outcomes for people with MS. If you'd like to learn about the neuro exam, I've actually done an entire playlist where I literally recorded myself doing aspects of the traditional neuro exam. And in this video, I'm going to move past it to more modern testing. Let me explain a little bit further. We don't use carrier pigeons to deliver messages any longer. We could, but the telephone works way better. We don't use a horse and buggy to travel to work anymore. We could, but a car works way better. And it's high time that we move past the traditional neuro exam and look towards testing that is more accurate, more reliable, in a modern approach to measuring someone with MS. So what's the point of doing a neuro exam? Or more broadly, what's the point of doing neurological testing? When you boil it down, there's 3 ways that we learn about a human being in clinic. The most important is what they tell us. You know you better than anyone else. You know your body and what you're experiencing better than anyone else in the world. And so if I can be a good listener, I can learn from you the most important information. But we want to also collect other avenues of information to best assess how you're doing and to measure how you're doing. One of the ways we do that is by obtaining an MRI. The MRI takes a picture of the structure of your brain. It can show us if there are new or enlarging MS lesions and where those lesions occur and whether or not they're active. The third way is neurological testing. And neurological testing is a tool, kind of like a ruler. So if you want to see how long a board is, you use a tool, a ruler, to measure it. In a similar fashion, the neurological examination is an attempt at measuring the neurological status of an individual. We have used the traditional neurological examination for centuries. And I'm talking about touch my finger, touch your nose, tap like this, follow my finger with your eyes. But there are some issues with it. There are several concerns I have with the traditional neurological examination. For starters, it doesn't measure function. When I ask you to do this, it gives me information in the motor system of your hand, and that's good to know about. But it doesn't tell me how well your hand works. The traditional neuro exam, as I've explained in my previous videos, goes through the various systems within the nervous system and checks out if they're working or not. How good is your vision? It doesn't tell me whether or not you can see in low light or if you have trouble driving. It just measures your eyeball's ability to read something. It doesn't tell me how coordinated you are when riding a bicycle. It just tells me how well you can move your arm. Now there's an assumption that measuring the neuro exam translates into function, but I don't think it always is 1 for 1. And so the fact that we're not measuring function bothers me. Also, it's very hard to do a neuro exam, and it takes a tremendous amount of education. I'm talking years to learn how to do it, and even more years to perfect it. The neuro exam is variable. And so if one of my colleagues does an exam and I do an exam, we may have slightly different results because of the way that we do our own individual testing. And it takes quite some time. To do a proper screening neuro exam for MS takes me upwards of 10 to 15 minutes. I'm going to share with you testing that has less variability, is more reliable, is more accurate, measures function, and is more predictive of long-term prognosis in MS.
Doesn't that sound like a good idea?
The first tool that I would like to introduce is the patient-determined disease step. This is a paper-pencil questionnaire that takes a few short minutes for the patient to complete. So I hand it to you and you fill it out, and then we can score it, and it translates into a number. Now, this has been studied with science and found to be very, very accurate and correlates very strongly with the neuro exam. So think about it. I could spend 15 minutes of a 30-minute clinic visit having you touch your nose and do all this, or I could simply have you fill out a form which tells me the same information. The second tool that I want to share with you is called the Multiple Sclerosis Functional Composite. And in specific, I'm going to share with you the tweaked version that we use in clinic. Every patient, every visit, is run through a battery of testing, and this testing is more reliable, it's more accurate, it's faster, and it doesn't require the neurologist to administer the test. The beauty here is this is done reliably by the MA or on a computer prior to the patient coming into the clinic room. Instead of me spending 10 to 15 minutes of our precious half an hour in clinic together, I have the results of your testing prior to when you sit down. And so instead of me collecting information during the clinic visit, you and I as a team can analyze the data and then spend that precious time gaming out how we're going to make you the most awesome version of you. I think that's a better use of time. The first component in the so-called MSFC Plus is a cognitive test. And the cognitive test that we use in clinic is called the Symbol Digit Modality Test. This is a proprietary test. I'm not allowed to show you on YouTube because that would be a copyright violation, but it's basically a matching test. It's a paper and pencil test, and it takes 90 to 120 seconds to administer. It is more reliable in assessing cognition in MS than any other screening tool, and it's very reliable looking from one clinic visit to the other. A change of 4 points on the symbol digit modality test is clinically and statistically significant, and we can track people over time. The second test that we use in the MSFC Plus is a test of arm function. It's called the 9-hole peg test, where under time we measure how long it takes you to grab 9 pegs out of a bin, place them into a pegboard, and then take them back out. We have you do it twice with your dominant hand and twice with your non-dominant hand, and we write down the time it takes you to do it. This is a functional test of how your arm's working. And if you are slow, it doesn't tell us what's wrong, but it tells us that something's wrong. So if you think about everything that's involved in doing this 9-hole peg test, you have to have good feeling in your fingertips, you have to have good proprioceptive understanding, you have to have intact vision, you have to have good hand-eye coordination, you have to have good fine motor control. It's testing a bunch of different functions, and it all culminates in how quickly you can do the test. So if I tested you last time I saw you and you achieved a certain score, and today when I test you, your speed is 20% slower, that is statistically and clinically significant. If I see that change, I now know that I need to dig in and I need to do further neurological testing to figure out what's going on with your arm. This screening test is extremely valuable, and it only takes a few seconds per arm to do it. The third component of the MSFC Plus is a walking speed test. We ask a patient to stand on a line and walk as quickly and safely as they can down the hallway 25 feet, and we measure it for time. This one test is actually more reliable in predicting progression of disability than the entire neuro exam. It takes only 5 to 10 seconds on average to do it, and it's extremely reliable. It also does not require the neurologist to administer the test. This can be collected by the medical assistant prior to the initiation of the visit. I feel very strongly that every MS patient that can walk needs to have this test done with every single visit. If you find that your walking speed has slowed by 20%, that is clinically and statistically significant. Now, once again, this is a functional test. If your walking time is slower, I then have to dig in and figure out why. Is it because you have a bunion on your foot? Is it because you were playing a rugby game and you're really sore? Is it because you have sciatica? Is it because your coordination is off, or because of spasticity? This test sensitizes us that, hey, something's not right. And if your walking speed is unchanged, that's awesome sauce. The fourth component to the MSFC Plus in our clinic is to measure visual acuity. And we choose to measure low contrast visual acuity. So when the doctor has you cover an eye and read the letters on the chart, typically they're using what's called a high contrast Snellen chart, which is jet black letters, 100% black, on a white background. It turns out that that is an insensitive test to measure subtle changes in the optic nerve associated with optic neuritis. It's not the best eye test for MS. Using a low contrast test, where you have the same white background but the letters aren't black, they're gray, is a much more sensitive way of measuring subtle visual loss. And so with each patient, each visit, we tend to test a low contrast visual acuity. Now all in all, it takes probably about 15 minutes to conduct the 9-hole peg test, the timed 25-foot walk, the symbol digit modality test, and the low contrast visual acuity. At our center, this is performed by the medical assistant, or it's automated by a computer, and the patient does the testing on their own. And all this is done prior to the initiation of the clinic visit. I have all this information in front of me when I see you, and I have all the results from every single time you've done it leading up to today. If I need to do further testing, I can do laser-focused neuro testing in the room to ferret out any particular problems. I think this is a step up in our ability to measure how you're doing. I think it frees up precious clinic time to spend it not collecting information, but using the information collected to make decisions with you. I've shared my opinion, and in doing so, I've probably upset or pissed off a bunch of traditional neurologists. Please don't hate. I'm not suggesting that we don't do neuro exams. I'm suggesting that we're more thoughtful about how we measure patients with MS. And I would love to hear your thoughts and your opinions. Please leave a comment down in the section below. The question of the day is, would you rather have a traditional neuro exam, or would you rather have functional testing as I've described? And whichever one you pick, please share why. If you would like to learn more about the neuro exam, don't fret. Again, I'll include a playlist right here where I go through some details of how I do a neuro exam. YouTube thinks that you would love this video right here. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so. Just click that circle right there. Thank you for learning about MS with me. And until my next video or my next live stream, this is Aaron Boster saying take care.